diving in. Sometimes you want to wade slowly in. First, tender feet on a rough beach, sharp stones and pebbles, making your hesitant way to ankles, knees, hips. You're breathing faster, getting used to it a little at a time. That's one way. But this is a hot, sleepless night with dreams you had long forgot. Your unknown future is out there. The surface of the lake glitters under moonlight. It is cool and silky. But the deep, dark waters hold secrets unknown, dangerous boulders or felled logs. You cannot predict this, or the terrible chance that you might instead skim the surface of your life, or worse, dangle your feet from the safe seat of the dock. If you can imagine that first sensation, that realization that you have let go of the solid ground beneath your feet, the ground you grew to trust and take for granted, then this beautiful, buoyant body of yours, baptized by longing and desire, can rise up, trailing luminescent moonlight from your fingertips, breathless and bold. I wrote Diving In a couple of years ago when I was on the precipice of changing the way I would do my work. I had successfully moved from suburban high school English teacher to poet with a master's in fine arts, to college professor directing vagina monologues, to, thank you, to successful business consultant. There's no logical reason that a trained poet should be the trusted advisor for leaders of large agencies, multinational corporations, or Fortune 500 companies. But an inspired path is not linear. And I was blowing the top off of my mental equivalent for what was possible from my very first job, which paid me $11,000 a year, to 50 times that much. Flying all over the world, staying in luxury hotels, eating at fine restaurants. When I got my first six-figure check, I went to Tiffany's to buy myself a Life is Good ring that sparkled under the lights from my first-class seat. But I had a secret. And I lived in fear for years that someone somewhere in some boardroom or hallway or some innocuous networking event would say, "Hey, where'd you get your MBA?" Because the truth was, I wasn't a business major. I wasn't an expert in strategy, finance, economics, or performance management. But I could tell you that iambic pentameter mirrors the beat of a human heart and the length of an ordinary breath. I could tell you that noticing the way a poet notices is the most essential, extraordinary skill you will ever have. And that resonance and rhythm can help you walk into a room and be who you are. You know, my wish for you today is that you might leave here a little bolder, a little more dangerous than when you arrived. And that you might be willing to give up that solid ground beneath your feet. On quitting. The sun sinks low and quits the day. And summer's soft nights make way for brilliant autumn. Soon, November will turn its back on Thanksgiving, the iced arms of the trees and the darkest nights of winter will give way for lighter dawn and the wet rains of spring. And so it is. We let go and we lean in. We push away and we embrace. I vow this day to quit more easily, to let go of that last tenacious leaf of doubt and of unworthiness. I let go of this quest on a desert island where I have swum of my own volition. Months and months, I've refused to build a raft, instead rereading the complete works of Shakespeare and memorizing poems I say over and over to the turbulent sea. I thought this silent reverie and monastic existence was my sort of heaven, until the hurricane of my life threatened to flatten my simple hut and uproot the trees, until the water's gentleness became a power beyond my imagining. 40 days is more than enough, with my cracked lips and devastating thirst. I quit the darkness for the light, for love, for hope, for knowing that I will quit over and over again for this journey, this blessed horizon, this boat filled with my rescue party, just now arriving on the shore. Last year, I was a finalist for the Woman Business Owner of the Year. I was honored at the Four Seasons Hotel, where 20 people showed up to support Team Libby. And under the chandeliered ballroom, I got to speak to hundreds of guests, and all I wanted to do was run. I began my talk by saying, you know, despite the fact they drove over the cliff at the end of the movie, there was something sweetly seductive about the story of Thelma and Louise. I got some laughs and everyone's attention. But what no one knew was that I had borrowed money to sponsor my tables, my line of credit was maxed out, and the next day, my top salesperson would tell me she wanted to leave my company. I had no idea how prophetic my speech on quitting would become 2 months later, when I decided to let go of the business I had built over the past 10 years, all of my employees, and change the way I worked forever. I had to let go in order to listen deeply. I had to get quiet in order to hear my own voice. And I had to slow down in order to speed up. I wanted to use my work as a poet, as an artist, to help leaders become who they could become, to use their artistry, their creativity, their innovation, to create dramatic and lasting impact with the people that they led. And I was afraid. Soup. Just when you think you will do it, or at least a piece of it. Instead, you find yourself at the counter in your pajamas, 3 a.m., slicing carrots and celery, chopping onions, tomatoes, a little bach playing softly so you won't wake the neighbors or the pigeons roosting on the roof. The sizzle and smell of something that begins like ratatouille, like the answer to the question, has woken you up utterly, completely. It's soup you're making at this silvered hour, not love or money or art. Like yesterday, When you couldn't resist the first sunny winds of March, you walked out anyway, bundled and blanketed, to check the first tender buds, the lilac leaves barely tipped, iris blades, rosemary's purple. It doesn't make sense on any ordinary time zone, which is why you are finally happy in it. You feed yourself. You walk in the garden. You know that time has come. I get a sense that time has come for many of us here today. That time has come for us to step into a different sort of conversation that we are having with ourselves and our work and our world. And in order to step into that conversation, you have to be willing to let go of what's old and no longer working. You're called to listen deeply, to honor your inheritance, your birthright, no matter what that might be. The reason I know that poetry needs to be in boardrooms and classrooms and kitchens and on your bedside table, that it needs to fold itself into a tiny slip of paper that you put into your pocket as you walk out into the woods or look out at the sunset, is because time is moving on. Your life is moving on. And if you don't arrest your attention, if you don't notice your own voice, sometimes whispering, sometimes yelling, you won't hear it. You won't notice the resonance that's calling you. You won't see the rescue party arriving on the shore. Poetry allows us to take notice. It allows us to pay attention, and especially allows us to say the unsayable, the thing you need to say. The time has come. Oh, you, daybreak on mountain peak, how could I do anything now but trust the unfolding of things?